this is going to be a twofer. So we're going to learn first the 2D type of flames that GW used to put on a lot of 90s era box art that you could use for Blood Angels, Salamanders, Legion of the Damned, Emperor's Children. And then we're going to learn a 3D type of flame, the same that we put on the flaming weapons. Now, you could use these on vehicles as well. You could put them along the front of a jet bike, on the side of a tank. You could use them for orcs even. So just because you don't play Space Marines doesn't mean you don't need flames. We're going to do the 2D flatter flames first. And to begin, let's go over my setup. So I have a cleaned and glued body here. This is just a Primaris interceptor, and I have put a pin up through the foot. I've chosen to go straight up into the ankle where there's more meat. Don't drill up here where there is not as much distance. You want a good deep pin there because we're going to be putting that in a Dremel to hold it down for us. This way we can get access underneath, over the top, to all of the areas that we are going to be applying green stuff. Okay, so I'm just going to do the shins here. Okay, next I have a block, a wooden knob here. And I've got some round balls of sticky tack. Right? And the reason I've made them into a ball is because you can take the pauldron and slip it over like that without getting the pauldron too covered. Okay, you want all of this edge here, all of this to be clear. You don't want any blue stuff coming around the outside. This will allow us to apply it quick and evenly. And then the backpack as well, we're going to add some flames right here on either side of the exhaust balls. The exhaust balls. All right. The reason I have this set up so I can access each one of these pieces quickly is because the green stuff is going to be rolled out flat, let cured to about 10% cured. Okay, so it's not so wobbly, and you'll see what I mean when we get to that stage. But I want to be able to cut a piece, apply it, and move on to the next piece so that all of these, I get all of them in one go. It's just faster like this. Sometimes the process is as easy as the setup, or rather, what? Sometimes the process is only as easy as much time as you put into the setup. So there's a tip for you. Now I have just rolled this green stuff out. This is fresh, fresh, fresh. We're going to let this sit for a minute instead of applying it right away. I'll get to that in a moment. While you're letting this cure, let it cure for probably 10-15 minutes. We're going to clean off our surface areas. Now the reason that we're not applying this quickly is we are going to have some pretty decent surface area. We're going to have a lot of contact space where the green stuff will adhere to the miniature, so we're not going to be terribly worried about it peeling off. Okay? And so we don't really need to hurry so much. Also, by waiting, we gain the advantage of being able to place the green stuff easily. Whereas if you applied it now, if I just, well, I'll show you. This is super fresh, and if you were to cut a piece, you have a little bit of a challenge with it flopping around. Like it's gonna be a little bit difficult. So let it cure for just a little bit, let it settle. And in the meantime, instead, we're going to gain that a little extra adhesion, not by using the absolute freshest green stuff, but because we're going to also clean off some of the oils from our miniature, which will make a nice clean contact. Okay, so this method allows us to use green stuff that's a little bit easier to handle, and we'll still have plenty of clean, strong contact, okay? Because later we're going to be cutting out shapes, and we don't want it to peel off from our host, okay? So while this is curing, and don't let it cure for very long, because we do need it to be sticky, right? We do need it to be pretty sticky, but Let it settle for just a minute. And then lastly, the advantage of doing this is that if we wait for the green stuff to cure a bit and settle, when we apply it, it won't be so impressionable. And it will be a nice, smooth application where then we can cut the flames out when it has cured some more. Instead of if we get a slice of this and we put it on a miniature and we are, see that? I've already got fingerprints in it. Just that easy. I barely touched it and I already have to smooth that out. So then if you apply this and you have little nicks from the corners of your brushes, then you're going to have to smooth those out. And that means that you're going to be flattening and changing the face of your green stuff. It's just way too impressionable at this point. If you want nice, consistent, smooth flames, then let it sit for just a second, just so that it's just a little bit less impressionable. And after 10 minutes and it's had a chance to settle, it's time to cut out some strips. Now the size of the strips will depend on the size of the flame. So if you want a really tall flame to come all the way up here, well, you're going to need to cut that much material and apply it, right? Now if you want tiny flames, you could go smaller. And then the thickness of this green stuff, this is about how thick I'm going. There you go. It's about the same thickness as the trim on the pauldrons. So it's not terribly thick. And you could go a little bit thinner if you'd like. It's all up to you. Let's cut a piece and apply it. So I want my flames, let's do about like that. Okay? And I'm just going to align it, just like this. And I'm going to press on the outside of the actual area I'm going to be covering. So I'm going to have my border be this greave, this plate, and I'm going to spread it across to the other side, which means that I'm going to press here with my thumb so I don't leave any kind of print. And I'm going to use, if you have a wider brush, like this guy here, this may be helpful in avoiding lines because you're going to be able to smooth the entire section all at once instead of using this and potentially drawing lines with the corner of your brush, right? See how it doesn't cover all of it? So just smooth it over. And if this is getting more technical than you care, like you don't actually care if there's any lines, that's totally fine. Go ahead and apply it just like that. Okay. Easily smooth that down. So if you have little spots that just don't look right, it's okay. You can smooth them out if you're careful. But just let that sit. I would either lick your shaper, get a little bit of oil, a little bit of water, but just smooth that over, okay? And we're going to be applying to the other side as well. See how the oil just helps that glide nice and smooth. Oil is great for polishing and smoothing areas, okay? So, do the same thing to the other side. I'm also going to be doing the pauldrons, okay? The reason that we have everything set up like this is so that you don't get your finger oils on the pieces where you need the green stuff to stick. And it also helps to apply everything quickly because this green stuff is prime right now after 10 minutes to apply it in this way. You get good adhesion, you get it nice and smooth, and you want to be able to hit it really quick, really fast, right? So, cue the montage. I'm going to be adding some more. Okay. Now you can get an idea of where I am. Now, you don't have to be terribly careful with this. See how I've overlapped and whatever. That doesn't matter. We're going to trim all this away anyway. But it is important to have a nice, smooth, consistent finish. And it's also important to kind of get an idea of where your lines are. So it doesn't hurt to take your brush, take your pusher, and really press so that you can see the detail underneath. So see how I can see where that rim starts and ends? Because we're going to trim this up when it gets to about 50%, 60% cured. We're going to clean up the lines and really distinguish everything. And then we'll probably let it cure from that point to 100% and go from there with the trimming and tracing out all of the flames. But that's going to be our initial application. So wait until this is about, I'm going to say 70%, even 70, 80% cured before you start trimming. Because if you don't, then as you're trimming this away, it has a tendency to stick to the blade, which will then yank it and pull it, and then it'll make our finish pretty inconsistent. So it's probably a good idea to wait until about 80% cured. Now this is cured for about an hour and a half, about 90 minutes. And it is at a good spot to start trimming. Now the reason that we didn't start trimming immediately is because if you trim off fresh green stuff from something and try to peel it off and remove it, it will stick and tear and smear, and it's just a mess and a pain. And to clear it off, you'd have to scrape it, and it's no good. If you wait to this stage, however, you can cut into it like this, okay, and make nice clean lines still. Right? It's still pliable, but you can also peel this off and it won't be so difficult to remove. Okay? The other good thing about waiting until this period and not waiting until it's completely cured is because you can still work it a little bit. So say that you cut a little bit too low, right? Or excuse me, too high. Say instead of cutting there, you cut up too high, and now you have a gap, and this is completely cured, and there's nothing you can do about it. Well, then you got to gap fill it, and you got to fill it in, smooth it, and everything, and that's a pain as well. With it fresh like this, if you cut too much off, right? So say you cut too much off, and you say, oh man, I need some material back where that was. No problem. You can start pushing up some material that you still have left, kind of fill that area. And then lastly, if you find that your material is too thick, like you're cutting into it and you think, oh man, it's going up past the rim here, the flames just are too chunky, well then you can also thin it down by pressing in a certain consistent direction and thin it out to the level that you want. Also, if you have any little nicks, any little points in there that you don't want, if you want it nice and smooth, you still have time to work those out. You see that? You still have time to polish them. So at this point, I'm going to start just cutting around and removing the green stuff from the trim. Okay. Any little spots that I mess up can still be fixed. So at this point, what I like to do is just press firmly, right? Cut a little segment out there, and then you can kind of peel it away. See that? Now, see how I missed my guess, and see how I took too much off? Totally fine. Nothing to worry about, because we can still work with the green stuff. It's starting to come off my blue stuff. There we go. So see how there's a gap? Whoops. This is a perfect opportunity to show you what I mean by fixing it. So I'll just take my brush, push it, polish it until it meets that line nice and flush. Okay, so I'll just keep going. And this is just if you want to reproduce those flames you see on GW stuff, really. It doesn't need to be perfect unless you want it to be. You know, it just depends on how much of a perfectionist you are. So just keep polishing and polishing. And there we go. So I'm going to remove all of this trim. Just like this. Just follow that line. Get your knife under there. Just like that, see? Get the brush. Polish it down nice and tight. And if you let this cure and then you find that you've got little tags, little pieces of green stuff still, that's not a big deal. Just wait till it's all cured and then you can trim those off, no problem, okay? Trimming is much easier if you just get your knife up against a raised ledge and then follow that line around. So like on this exhaust ball here, they have these rims and then they have the ball itself. You can press your knife and just roll, right? Just follow those lines. Like right here, see that raised spot? We're just going to get the tip, press it against that line, and just pop it. As you're cleaning up your lines, you can also get your knife in and define those edges. If you find that you're a bit too thick, like you can see right here, see how that's coming up over the rim? And you just get a bit of oil, and we'll start from here and we'll just start pushing that green stuff from the bottom upward, because we're going to be trimming a lot of this up top off, right? So it doesn't matter. So let's just do that. We'll start pushing that up. And if you find that you've gone over this line and it's not so defined anymore, again, just get your knife and just roll it, following that contour, okay? You can feel the difference between the green stuff and the plastic. So just practice rolling that over and defining that line. And it may push up some material again. No big deal, just polish it down. In this way we can get that area filled in nice and smooth, nice and defined. And if you miss something, you can probably trim it off when it's all cured, but it just looks cleaner if you do it in this stage. See how we're starting to get a lot more flush there? Yeah, that's looking good, real good. All right, now this one here is giving me problems because it's flopping around on this. This is dirty and used blue tack. I really should have used some fresher stuff, but you can also press it down so it doesn't move so much. Obviously, you're not going to have these issues if you were to apply flames to a miniature that's already assembled, but that comes with its own challenges because some miniatures you can't, get all of the angles and contours that you want. If you're worried about how smooth your finish is, again, using a broad, firm, this is an extra firm. Extra firm. Okay, extra firm brush. If you find that your finish is a little bit disheveled, you got some flat areas and whatever else, you can check by using the light. Now you probably can't see through the camera too well, but see this white line of light? As you're trying to smooth and make a contoured round surface, turn it along a certain axis that allows that light to, oh, see right there, to go over a spot. And mine right now needs to follow that subtle arc of the curvature of the pauldron, and right there it doesn't. It's got a little bit of a wave in it. So just polish that out, and now it's back to being nice and curved. So use the light, use the shadows. That will help you figure out how you're doing. All right, let's work on the leg here. I can see the contour. Instead of cutting a line like this, which even if I have oil on my knife like I do, could mean that I grab the green stuff and I drag it down and then all this material drags down as well. Instead, I'm going to make a cut from here, the tip, follow the contour of the plate and work my way out. If possible, you always want to start from an inside area and cut to the outside instead of cutting down and then leaving your exit, your end point in the middle. Doesn't look as clean. Okay, doesn't look as clean. See how that pops off because we've waited to this point. That's pretty clean. It looks pretty good. See, not a whole lot of cleanup right here with the brush. If, however, you cut and it leaves some ragged edges, no problem. Just get your nice squared brush. Square that up. This is also how you would build up additional plates. So we're going to be revisiting a lot of this method when we do additional plates on armor in the future. Okay, see how this has a little ragged bit where it tore and stretched? And come up here, clip it off like that, and then get your flat brush, smooth that out, square it up. Okay. Let's follow this. Follow that around. I'm going to come up here. And this time, even though I'm going to be ending my cut on the outside, if I were to do this, I'm going to go up here because my hand's in the way, can't get a nice clean angle at that. And if I cut from here, I can put my point and then I can see more of the plate underneath right here, so I can line that up with my blade and just ride that channel all the way to the top. See that? Nice and clean. Nice and clean. Now once you get to the top of the foot here and the greave, you can use a cup brush and stick it in there. There is also that's a good shape for it. There's also this really weird one. I don't know what this, let's see, what is this called? Cup chisel. Okay, cup chisel. And that has a flat on the nose as well as a cup. It's kind of rounded. And it is just about ideal for these areas. Okay, you can get them in there. It's like it was made for it. Okay, you can get it Watch it, it just follows that contour of the foot. See, like that? It just follows the contour, just sticks in there. And it just cleans that area up nice and sharp. All right, so there's a cup chisel, a use for that brush. Okay, this is cured completely. Let's trim out some flames. If it helps you, you could also draw some flames on the top and then trace them. If that's helpful for you. I've already done it on this side. I just did it freehand, but if you need to trace over it, you know, go ahead and do that. Clean it off with some oil first, maybe use a marker. If you can't draw flames, then, well, if you can't draw flames, go learn how to do that, and we'll be here when you get back. Okay? Now, if you don't like how thick this is turning out, you can go thinner. You can spread the green stuff on there thinner. It is a bit easier to cut out as well. You don't have as much mass working against the blade. Which, by the way, you need to use a fresh, nice, new X-Acto for this process. But if you don't like how thick it is here, try this method on vehicles, dreadnoughts, tanks, that sort of thing, because the thick, bold sort of effect that you have here looks really great on plate armor and really allows for a nice flat space where you can work non-metal metallic, etc. So let's try and cut this out, and then we'll go to another method of 2D flames. Okay, take a little break here to explain my technique here. So often, again, I like to start in the center, and I like to pull to my empty area here. You are therefore leaving a lot of anchored green stuff on the mass of the Mini, which means that you're not going to peel it off as easily. If I cut downward, sometimes my knife blade will catch and it'll start to peel off that material. So if you're finding that it's peeling off, try sticking your point in first and working to the outside, okay? And you can also carefully trim off these tongues and make them a little bit more dynamic, or however you would like. But that is the first method. Let's go to the second method. I'll take pictures of how this turns out at the end. But let's move on to the second one. So this is the type of method that we're going to learn next. It's my preferred method for infantry. It's pretty detailed, but it's actually deceptively easy. All right, so just get yourself another piece to work on. We'll probably do just another pauldron, and I will show you how I do this. For this next segment, we're going to use super fresh green stuff and apply it almost immediately. So I'm mixing up some here. And you're just going to grab some off of your stock and just throw it onto your subject here, okay? It does not need to be super clean or careful how you apply it, but your miniature does need to be clean. So remember to clean that off with some alcohol, some hand sanitizer, okay? And just get some teardrop shapes, some little pickles here of green stuff, and just start throwing them on there, okay? Just grab these up, kind of pinch it, roll it on one end, and slap them on there. Sometimes it's best to just stick them like that real quick. Just pat them on there. All right, we're going to be removing most of this material anyway, so it does not really matter the method to put these on. Okay, now that these are on, start down here, zoom in a little bit, start at the bottom, and just start polishing just like we did previously. All right. And that's a bit of material. That's a bit more material than I need. So I'm going to just start trimming some of this off. And we'll just do it kind of in shapes and pull it just to reduce the material. It doesn't need to be. Let me clean at this stage either. Okay. And if you realize you still have too much material, just repeat that. All right. Now realize what we're going to be doing is pulling a lot of the detail out of this stock, this material. And so when we're done, it's going to be taller than it is now. So maybe I do want to reduce it. Let's just keep going down. All right. We don't really need that much. Let's go with that for now. So get your firm brush, get some oil on it, and just start pressing it down and filling in all the way down to the edge of the trim. Okay. There we go, just some of that. Again, doesn't need to be clean. There we go. I'm going to trim this out. This method definitely would be easier if we had this mounted on a miniature already. That's right, we'll just work around it because the blue stuff tends to move around just a little more than I would like for how hard I'm pressing. Okay, we'll just polish it so that it meets that edge. Just like that, remove that. Okay, see that? Now, grab your pokies. We're going to grab a large variety here, different sizes. Start with a rather larger one, like this guy right there. Okay, and just put it in and then pull up. Go up a little bit higher. Don't go at quite the same level. Just push it in and go up. Stagger the depth. Go in, go up, in and up. That's a good place to start. Now, because that's going taller than I want, we'll just trim that off. Okay. Now, we can take a smaller pokey, a little bit of oil, because we don't need to stick anything else at this point, right? So oil does not matter. We're not adhering, we're just taking away and shaping material. So having oil on our pokies, won't really matter that much. Stretching out the green stuff can make it tear and lift off a little bit, so if you find that it's detaching, just put it back down. Get a smaller pokey. Here's a smaller tip. We're just going to get into halfway of these little tongues here. We're going to go in the middle of them and just pull up. All right. Just like that. Okay. Now don't trim these off all in one line. Trim them off at different heights. Okay, so that one I'm going to trim off there. This one I'll trim off right here. Just kind of stagger them. You know what I mean? Let's do another one right there. Yeah, there we go. And maybe another one right there. Just like that. Now I'm starting to come off on this corner. No big deal. We'll just get our... So I'm starting to come off on this corner. No big deal. Just polish that down. All right, it's already starting to look like fire. Now, get your steel tip pokey, little bit of oil, and just start pulling out little flames. So you can get in between here and just start pulling out, and you'll see that some of the tongues here will just start moving and doing their own thing. Just let it happen. With flames, whatever happens, happens. Okay, just encourage it to do what it's going to do. You can also, picked up my little pokey. There it is. You can also start splitting some of these tongues. So going to the tip here, you could go with your steel tip pokey. See how that one started to split? I'm going to encourage it to do so. And as I'm pulling out, I'm going to twist it so it starts to move its tongue this way, right? Remove that with the knife. Make sure everything's nice and clean. And at this point, guys, it's just going in with a cone tip brush and just encouraging the flame to do whatever it's going to do. At this point, just take a reference from that collared t-shirt, that collared button-up shirt you got in your closet with the flames on it. You know who you are. Go pull that thing out, lay it on your bed, take a good look at it, because that's what we're going to be doing here, these flames. All right. So this one wants to go into a fork like that. So let's just push it down. Now, if you want there to be a little lip there and you want this to look nice in 3D, push down with the tip. If you don't want it to look 3D, then what you're going to do to make deeper loops like that, instead of pushing with the tip, just get the tip at the bottom of it and just start rolling it around in circles like that and then pulling out. And that will maintain a flat surface instead of 3D. All right. So just mess around with that. And that is how to do the second type of 2D. The next segment, we're going to start learning how to do flames like we did on the weapons. It's going to be a little experimental because I've never done it before, but I'm going to bring you guys along with it. This one is a little bit too bunched up. Let's do that. This one I want to go a bit deeper, so let's do that. You see how it just kind of does its own thing? Now I've got 3 peaks here. Let's encourage that. Sorry for the screaming. There is a school nearby and the kids are at recess. And if this starts getting a little confusing, patting it down like this with your flat brush, your chisel tip, helps to kind of give you an idea of what's going on here. Anyways, go ahead and try that method. Let's move on to the 3D as well. Got a fresh miniature here. Normally I would recommend you assemble your miniature completely if you're going to do this method with dynamic flames, because you really want to match the motion and direction of your miniature. However, I've put one of these miniatures together before. I have a pretty good idea of it. So I'm just going to do the flames on the legs. Now the same technique I'll be using on the pauldrons and everything else, so I probably won't show those just to keep this video digestible. But I will show you the legs, and the same technique will be used, and so you won't be missing anything. First, let's block out where we want our flames to be. This is going to give us a substructure because we're going to have flames hanging off in space, right? And if we don't have anything to sculpt on top of, well, can't do a whole lot. So let's build out that substructure. I'm going to put a fresh piece of green stuff, just slap that pickle on there, press it down, and anchor it just like that. Maybe wrap it around a little bit. Depends if you want your flames to come out here. Do you want them to wrap behind a little bit? I'm going to have them wrap around. I think they'll look more encompassing that way. Okay. And then I also probably want another little one, maybe back here. Okay. Just like that. I'm going to anchor that. And if that one looks as it does, we don't want to match it exactly on the other leg, right? Flames are not symmetrical by any means. So let's probably put one, well, let's put one coming out of the knee, like right there. And then maybe another flame coming around from here, right? Just to make it asymmetrical. And maybe another little one coming out of the foot, but over here. There we go. That to stick. Let's anchor those down. Use a smaller brush to get in there. So let's anchor that. And this one. And I just push with the corner and just kind of smash it in there. I'm going to get this one to come out right there, and it's going to wrap around. But we want these tips to be floating. Okay? Then what you're going to do, once those have had a chance to grab and anchor, is you want to kind of tug on these. Alright? Just kind of tug. This one I'm going to wrap around. So I'm going to keep down like that. This one accidentally stuck to this one, so I'm going to get some oil on my knife and separate them. Not a big deal. If you can't get in there with your fingers, get a little oil on your tweezers. You can get in there like that. Pull that out. All right. Now at this point, we're just going to let this start to cure. And we're going to just flatten out some of this area. I think I'm going to thin this out a bit. So oil on the knife, just roll it across. Pick out that spot, because I don't want to cover too much of the armor. I still want the armor to be visible. All right, see all that. We're going to use the angle chisel. Get in there and start doing a bit of detail work. Zoom in for you. Let's just kind of take the angle and just start pressing in some flames. And if you want to split the tongues off, so split this one into two, maybe this one comes up, and this one maybe twists off to the back a little bit. I'm also going to fold this underneath so it looks like maybe the flames are coming out of the leg, you know, out from under the gap here. I'm going to get my knife, trim that off. And if this is looking terrible, well, again, a lot of things look terrible before they look great, so just bear with. Get this and kind of pull it, and we can always change that later. Just work in our detail. This one I'm going to split just a little bit. Get in there. Have that going up. This one I've decided is too much mass, so I'm going to break that off. And to see how that created a fork, let's encourage that. So I'm going to, with oil on the tool, oil on the tweezers, just kind of get that, pull it. I'm going to go get my cone, my round nose, get in there and start refining that. Just draw those flames organically in waves, right? Just let it happen. This one, tuck it under there as well, so that the waves of flame look natural. I'm going to have this one kind of curving. See, it's starting to take form and shape a little bit, right? We're just going to keep working it. And if it doesn't work out, we'll start over. No big deal. This one, so I'm going to pull off there. And let's fork this one as well. So see that? Maybe twist it. Twist this one around as well into a nice S shape. See how that's going? Let's come over here, tuck this guy into this plate, bring it around. I'm going to do a bit of oil so I get a nice smooth tweezers. Just kind of form that like this. All right, so this is obviously a little rough, right? Not finished at all. But as it's curing, we're just going to keep working it. And individual flames will start to pop up like this guy right here. Just formed that. Whatever it wants to do, just encourage it. Okay, there seems to be one popping up right there. So I'm going to grab it. I'm going to pull it out like that. We're going to go over it. Just like that. Okay. Keep doing that until it is cured. Then we will trim down certain areas and add some extra flames elsewhere. And we will go to that point. Okay, here's a little part where I want to show how I'm doing this. Get knife with some oil on it. Just like cloth, we're going to tuck those flames underneath. Okay. We're going to tuck them into plates back here, because I want to make it look like the flames are coming from somewhere. This one, turn that into an S shape. This guy, I'm going to get under there. We're just going to yank him. These are looking too symmetrical. So this has an S shape and an S shape, right? Yeah, I don't like that. So we're going to pick which one looks better, keep it, and do something else with the other one. here. There we go, more or less. So I'm going to keep working this till it cures, and when it does, I'll come back and we'll add and trim and go from there. So one thing about sculpting flames that I want to remind you is that if you go with a rounded brush and use the edge of it, use the side of it, and you're flattening out, it will make this area more round, right? And then as you brush out, use the tip and it will draw those lines. See what I'm saying? And you want flat open areas as well as spiky areas. And you want some flames to aim to end in sort of a boxy shape before they get to the tip. And some of them to end in long spikes. You want variation. You don't want them all to look the same. Or otherwise they look prickly and they look spiky instead of billowy. Okay, so keep working it, guys. Keep working it. Alright, let's wrap this video up. So this is cured to a pretty good state. I can still press in just barely enough detail that I can get some last finishing touches. At this stage, you can also still take your tweezers and refine the tips of these tongues of the flames if you wanted to pull them and make them sharp. Essentially, we just did what we did in the flaming weapons video, so if you want more footage of this process, just head over there and check it out. It's going to be exactly the same. So hopefully that was helpful for you guys. I'm going to do the same thing to the pauldrons and make this guy into a Legion of the Damned. I think he should look pretty cool. We've also gone over, just to recap, the plate method where it looks like you've put a plate over the other armor, and then also the fine detail, kind of molded in look. So there are 3 methods on how to do flames on your armor. This one is probably my favorite for the practical reasons. This would look great on tanks and armor. Also, I wanted to show you guys a lengthy setup process for this method because it also applies to making plate, which we'll be doing in the future. In that we're going to be laying it smooth, trimming the edges, being careful like that. So it will translate to future videos. And then we ended with this guy, and I'm hoping you guys push yourselves and really push your abilities and try this out because it's not as difficult as it looks. Anyways, if you got any questions, please let me know. You can send me an email at lastlightcreative@gmail.com. You can also get a hold of me on Patreon through messages, though it's spotty sometimes. And then on Discord, if you are new, thanks for joining. Please join the Discord. You are welcome to post up your own stuff, as well as ask any questions you like. Thanks, guys. You ever knock a X-Acto knife off the table, and as it's spinning towards your genitals, you clench so hard you burn 2,000 calories?